Welcome to Portland, Maine. Welcome to the Holiday Inn by the Bay, and welcome to the 2025 Northeast Farm to Institution Summit. We are a full house, so if you have empty chairs next to you, just maybe give a wave so folks know they can sit. Awesome. Welcome. My name is Leighton. I am the Director of Strategic Impact at FIND. I'm joined by FIND's Executive Director, Peter Allison, and FIND's Director of Strategic Partnerships and Initiatives, Tania Taranovski, who are sitting beside me. And on behalf of the FIND team and the Summit Steering Committee, we want to welcome you to the Summit and thank you for joining us for what we know is going to be a really impactful and meaningful couple of days. Over the next 2 days, 420 of us will gather for 30 sessions, 2 keynote plenaries, 4 meals, and many other moments of connection and relationship building. This is the 6th biennial Northeast Farm to Institution Summit and the first in Northern New England, and we are very grateful to be in Portland for this event. We know that taking time out of your busy schedules to come to a conference is not at all easy, and we really appreciate you showing up, and we are grateful to anybody in your lives who also helped to make it possible for you to be here. The theme of the 2025 Summit is belonging. This was a decision that was made in October of last year, suggested by Steering Committee member Jim Hanna and inspired by John A. Powell and Stephen Menendian, who say in their book, Belonging Without Othering, "We all yearn for community and connection, but we live in a time when calls for further division along the well-wrought lines of religion, race, ethnicity, caste, and sexuality are pervasive. The root of all inequality, they say, is the process of othering, and its solution is the practice of belonging." We recognize that we are coming together in a particularly challenging moment for folks during doing food systems work and for the individuals and the families that we serve and that we work alongside. We opened registration for the summit on February 15th amidst a series of announcements that have directly impacted many, if not all of us in this room. In the weeks leading up to the registration launch, we had many conversations as a team about how to proceed with this event. Should we cancel? Should we postpone? Should we have a smaller event? Should we adjust our theme? We wondered if people would come, even if their funding was uncertain and they were dealing with confusion about their work and simultaneously worrying about the impacts on their kids and their families and their neighbors. Even as we ultimately decided to move forward and launch registration and to hold tight to our theme, we wondered if this was the right time, if people would have the capacity to gather. And then someone registered for the summit. And then 20 people registered, and then 100 people registered, and then 400 people registered. It turns out that not only do people have the capacity to gather, but it is in fact as if not more necessary and important than ever. This should not be surprising to us, and it's actually not a new phenomenon to this network at all. In April 2017, in the months following the start of a new administration, under the umbrella of Bold Region, Big Change, Bright Future, we gathered. In April 2021, in the middle of lockdowns and illness and so many unknowns about our health and safety, under the umbrella of reflection, resilience, and renewal, we gathered. Virtually, but we gathered. In April of 2023, as we came out of what seemed like years of virtual work and Zooms and surveyed the damage and started to build new and stronger systems, under the umbrella of Community Powers the Food System, we gathered. In 2019, our summit director literally went into labor 45 minutes before the first morning of the summit, and still we gathered. And so here we are in April 2025, us 420 farmers, fishers, food manufacturers, educators, food service operators, community organizers, food processors, aggregators, chefs, funders, researchers, nutritionists, service members, students, advocates, administrators, policymakers, government officials, program managers, organizers, and activists in the midst of another moment of uncertainty and challenge and division gathering under this umbrella of belonging. This network knows that in times of uncertainty, we have to unite and we have to weave our nets together into strong and interconnected webs, and the more we do this, the stronger those webs become and the harder it is to break them. And so here we are, us 420 people who work at or with early childhood facilities, K-12 schools, colleges, prisons, jails, and hospitals, who come from 26 states and Washington, D.C., who live in urban and rural and suburban communities, who are over 60 and under 16 years old, who have been doing this work for more than 20 years and who are just getting started, who are attending the summit for the first time, who have been to all 6, and who understand that this work is hard, it has always been hard, and who still choose to do it because it is important and it is necessary. Who are here to connect our nets, to listen to each other, to share our stories, and to come up with solutions together. Over the next 2 days, I invite you to think about your intentions for your time at the summit. What support do you need? What policy changes, mutual aid, funding opportunities, technical assistance would help you in your work? Which of those things can you and will you provide to others in this room? What actions, big or small, do you want to call people into? We'll have many moments over the next 2 days to come up with answers to those questions. Before I hand it over to Peter Allison, who will introduce Commissioner Beal, we want to say a really big thank you to a lot of people who've made this event possible. First, to the 130 speakers that will be sharing their knowledge and their experience and embracing our theme over the next 2 days. Our summit sponsors for helping to make this event possible and accessible to anybody who wanted to attend. You'll be able to meet a lot of them at the exhibitor tables, and their logos will be flashing up on the screens throughout the day. You may have noticed our really stunning visual identity for this summit. All of our materials were made especially for this event by Portland artist Jordan Parks. Jordan, are you in the room? There she is. Jordan will be at a table at the registration desk, so swing by and say hello and contribute to our collaborative mural, make some art of your own. Last night we had an amazing reception. Thank you to Sodexo and USM Portland for hosting us and for highlighting all the amazing food that this region has to offer. To the Holiday Inn by the Bay for hosting us over the next 2 days. Our goals for the summit are really extensive and include everything from having meditation and lactation rooms to purchasing 50% of our food locally. And our partners at the Holiday Inn have been extremely patient and accommodating amidst the many, many emails that started with things like, "Hey, Rick, it's us again," and ended with things like, "Just hoping to talk to you about our options for local vegan yogurt that isn't served in single-use plastic containers." Or, "Hey, Rick, is it cool if we put lamps in the boardroom so people can meditate in there?" To the Northeast Farm to School Collaborative, who is here this week? Maybe those folks can raise their hands as well. FINE was birthed out of that collaborative, and we're really appreciative to y'all for being here and for using the summit as a meeting space once again. We have a number of FINE NAC members in the room who represent FINE's overarching governing body. We're really grateful for you. They have green lanyards on. We're also recruiting 3 new NAC members. There's information at our table, or you can pull one of them aside. To the Summit Steering Committee, I actually want to invite you all to stand up. We are so grateful for your time and your thoughtfulness as we've met over the last year. This group has reviewed proposals, designed the program, supported our sustainability, evaluation, and DEI efforts, and much more. That's Jocelyn Antonio, Annie Broad, Alita Peterson, Lucy Flores, Shania Flowers, Lauren Griswold, Jim Hanna, Amelia Kelleher, Ella Kennan, Maeve McInnes, Noreen Mena, Brittany Peets, Passion Rutledge, and Josh Stephanie. And then finally, I want to invite the FINE staff to also stand. Dana Stevens, Tania Taranovski, Britt Florio, Sarah Lyman, Peter Allison. And we're also joined by Emily Mastaloni-Snyder, who's helping us coordinate today and tomorrow. This is our 6th summit, and while there are some things that get easier after you've done them 6 times, we feel such a responsibility to this network, which makes it so that when one summit ends, we start thinking about the next one, and we're really, really honored, and it also is a lot of work, so we're so grateful to the staff for everything they've done. Staff are wearing orange lanyards, NAC and Steering Committee are wearing green, so if you have questions or any guidance needed, pull one of them aside, or just pull them aside and give them a really enthusiastic high five. So I am now going to hand it over to Peter Allison. Thank you.
Thank you, Hannah. That was wonderful. I was debating whether to say great or lovely, but I've settled on wonderful. I think that was a really awesome introduction to our day. Hi, I am Peter Allison. I'm the Executive Director at FINE, and I am super happy to be here with you today. 10 years ago, my brother was getting on a plane, and he was reading this book. I was reminded of this story recently out on a bike ride where I do a lot of my best thinking. And he was reading It Takes a Village by Hillary Clinton when it had recently came out. And he was sitting next to this young mom with a child who was not that stoked about being on the plane and actually was screaming out quite a bit. And the woman turned to my brother and said, for the next 6 hours, you're the village. And, for the next 2 days and actually much longer, you are the village, we are the village. And it's really amazing to be here with you village people. Hannah asked us to set our intentions for the next couple days. And one of mine is to connect with as many of you old colleagues and new friends to really hear what's going on and just to connect. As some of you heard last night, after 14 years, I'm going to be stepping down as executive director this summer for a whole bunch of really good reasons. And so this summit is particularly special to me, even though I love all the summits equally. But it's really great to be here at this time with all of you. I'm really excited about this move because Hannah and Taranovski, who are really important members of our current leadership team, are going to be stepping up in a new co-director role. So join me in celebrating them. I couldn't be happier about this leadership transition, which is the result of a ton of thought and meetings and deliberation by an engaged leadership transition committee and our full staff team over the past year. I'm really excited for a whole bunch of reasons, but first and foremost is I really care about FINE and about this network. And I think that Tania and Hannah are going to be in collaboration with the rest of the FINE team, Dana Stevens, Sarah Lyman, and Britt Florio, are just an amazing team with the experience, skills, smarts, and grace to lead FINE in supporting this diverse network over its next chapter. So actually, if all of you could stand up, Sarah, Dana, Hannah, Tania, Britt, are you in the room? Oh, there they are. Orange things, and just want to give you all a round of applause. Thank you. So it's now my great pleasure to introduce someone who is both a colleague and a friend, Amanda Beal, the Commissioner of Maine's Department of Ag, Conservation, Forestry, to share her thoughts as we begin this summit. I'm sure all of you Mainers know Amanda through her courageous work as Commissioner over the past 5 years and as President and CEO of Maine Farmland Trust before that. Or you might know her as a farmer who grew up on a Maine farm family and continues to farm today. Increasingly, people around the region know Commissioner Beal through her work as the past president of the Northeast Association of State Directors of Agriculture, or NEASDA, and she is well known nationally as the president-elect of NASDA, the National Association of Directors of Ag, a year from this fall. I've had the pleasure of knowing Amanda since the early days of Food Solutions New England, in her active role in crafting the New England food vision. And I've always had a really deep appreciation and admiration of Amanda's thoughtful, focused leadership and keen insights, as well as the fact that she's a really nice and fun person. So I'm really glad you're here with us today. Please join me in welcoming Commissioner Amanda Beal.
Well, good morning, everyone. It is my great pleasure to be able to extend a warm welcome to Maine to you all. And I know that some of you were here, many of you were here yesterday and were involved in discussions and field trips that kicked off this whole conference or this summit. So I realize I might be a little belated in saying welcome, but welcome nonetheless. I am so happy that this summit is located in Maine this year, as it gives us the opportunity to spotlight some of the really innovative and dynamic work that is happening here, and how we are so excited to keep working to make even more connections between our farmers, fishermen, aquaculture producers, and institutions. In fact, I spent some time looking at the agenda for this summit, and my only regret is that I can't be here to attend every session. But no doubt you will leave here on Wednesday feeling inspired and with an unmeasurable amount of good information and tools to build more connections that will strengthen our regional food system in ways that are significant and lasting. As my friend Peter knows from our time serving together on the Food Solutions New England Steering Committee, I am a true fan of the work of this network and, of course, of Farm to Institution New England. I grew up here in Maine, as Peter said, on a family farm. It's a dairy farm, which I'm very proud to say is nearly half a century old, with the second and third generations now operating the farm, that being my brother and his wife and his amazing children. And so much has changed over that time period that has created challenges for our farmers. But the work that's been done over the past few decades to educate and inform people about the importance of knowing where your food comes from, of valuing the work of food producers, and making an effort to buy locally and regionally is the bright spot that is creating opportunities for producers and institutions alike to build a healthier, more fair, and vibrant food system. I know this takes a lot of work, and I know this because back in the early 2000s, I had the good fortune in my role as a public health educator to work with the Cumberland County Soil and Water Conservation District and Gorham Schools, where Ron Adams, who I don't know if he's in the room, but he's amazing. He is a pioneer in this farm to institution, farm to school work in our state. But I had, but yes, so he was the school nutrition director in Gorham Schools, and we created a farm to school event that eventually became an annual statewide event called the Maine Harvest Lunch. And in our efforts to create a meaningful and impactful event that would hopefully pave the way for more food to reach the plates and trays of more kids year-round, more Maine food, that is, we worked hard to make the event in Gorham a success and to serve as a model for what could happen across Maine. We built curriculum, we brought in farmers to meet with students and talk about what it takes to grow food for them. We developed sample recipes and trainings for food service workers, and were able to provide mini grants for equipment and other school nutrition program needs to ensure they could participate in the Maine Harvest Lunch and utilize more locally grown food year-round. Many of our schools across the state have made great progress on that front, but there's certainly more ground to gain. In my role as commissioner, I've also had the pleasure of serving on Maine's Climate Council and co-chairing its Natural and Working Lands Work Group, where in 2020, its recommendation to aim to increase consumption of Maine-grown food and Maine-grown and produced food to 30% of our diets by 2030 was formally adopted by the council. This goal builds on state legislation passed in 2018 to increase institutional purchasing of Maine-grown food and was also informed by the target of increasing consumption of regionally produced food to 50% by 2050, as proposed in the New England Food Vision. We are very proud of the work that a number of Maine's colleges and universities have put into increasing purchases of local and regional foods, including the University of Maine's commitment in 2016 to aim for 20% of their food spending to be local by 2020, which they surpassed ahead of time. They then went on to raise the bar even higher with an updated goal of 25% local food purchasing by 2025, which they also expect to exceed. So I say this to help you to understand that I am very familiar with this farm to institution work you are all undertaking and well aware of how important that work is and the challenges you must navigate daily. I know it requires a lot of collaboration, and by the turnout here today, I am feeling very optimistic that through the networking here at the summit and your ongoing efforts to work together and learn from one another, that your time here will lead to many more successes. The panelists you will hear from and the discussions you will have over these few days together will no doubt help to advance all of our collective farm to institution efforts. From learning about the transformation taking place in our correctional facilities to efforts to make culturally relevant foods more available while celebrating diversity in food cultures, this is the place to be to chart the course forward to a more resilient and equitable food system. And on that note, I want to thank everyone who had a hand in organizing the summit and in bringing it here to Maine. I hope you all have a wonderful few days together here in this beautiful working waterfront city of Portland, also historically known as Forest City, which I feel I must mention as I'm also the Commissioner of Forestry. And since conservation also lives in our department, I would be remiss if I did not mention that you are just a few miles away from some of our most beautiful coastal state parks. So if you don't have time to explore the area or the rest of the state more broadly on this visit, I hope you will come again soon and come back often. In the meantime, I just want to thank you for the incredible work that you do. I greatly appreciate and applaud all of your efforts. Thank you.
Thanks so much, Commissioner Beal. Thanks, Peter and Hannah. I'm Tania Taranovski. I've already been introduced. So it's now my pleasure to introduce our plenary panel this morning. This is a group of people that I have come to know and learn a great deal from through a USDA Regional Food Systems Partnership that FINE is coordinating. It's called Rooted in Community. One of our partners in the Rooted in Community project is the Cumberland County Food Security Council. The council has been working for years to end food insecurity in the county so that all have equitable access to enough healthy food. The council works with many local partners, including schools, farmers, food businesses, nonprofits, community members, and more. And this panel is bringing together a number of people who represent the breadth of those partnerships that collaborate to help create a better food system. They're going to be sharing more about those efforts and their partnership in support of culturally relevant meals and diverse farming communities through Portland area farm to school. And it's a really important topic, and we're thrilled that they're here to talk about it and to talk about the ways that they're working together, because as Hannah said, it's really about the ways that we collaborate that create a network, a net that provides the kind of underpinning to this effort and to really make a difference to the people in our communities. So first, I'd like to welcome the moderator of our panel, Zoe Grodsky. I initially said, Zoe's been working for Cumberland County for only a couple of years, but actually it's been quite a few years now. And I think that what that tells me is that she's just like such an amazing person, and I'm constantly surprised by all that she brings into this work. She's the definition of a successful coordinator. She's gotten to know so many people. Whenever we have a question about what's happening on the ground in Maine, Zoe's one of our first points of contact. She's helping connect them all to each other and to what the things that they need to get their job done. Also joining us is Khadija Ahmed. And Khadija is an experienced chef, consultant, and founder and president of Food for All Services. You're going to see Khadija in a couple of other sessions as well, because she's bringing her incredible expertise to many different food system projects throughout Maine, and we're really glad she's here with us today. Like Khadija, you're also going to see Mary Emerson in another session and probably hear her name often as people are discussing impactful farm-to-school efforts here in the Portland area. Mary is the school nutrition director of the Westbrook schools. Then we have Muhidin Libah, who's the executive director of the Somali Bantu Community Association and Liberation Farms. And we're really fortunate to have him here in Maine with his organizational leadership, his vision, and his farming skills. We're also thrilled to be joined by Chef Joe Robbins, whose understanding and celebrations of Indigenous foodways are going to be tasted later today at lunch, so right back here at lunchtime, and also beyond the kitchen and into the classroom and communities across Maine. And you might have noticed we did have two other names on our agenda, Lena Jadad and Maria Muhammad. And Lena and Maria are two students who've worked closely with the rest of our speakers here. And unfortunately, they weren't able to join us today. And we're very sad about that, but we also know that their students. They've been sick and there's a lot going on in their lives. So although they couldn't be here, we do want to really just take a moment to acknowledge their involvement and the importance of engaging students in farm to school efforts. And we're really grateful that they were hoping to be here. So before I do hand things over to Zoe to get things going, I would like to ask you all to remain here in the ballroom for just a few minutes after the panel so we can share a few important details about the rest of the summit, prepare you for the rest of the day and tomorrow. And now, with that, please join me in welcoming these incredible food system leaders and visionaries.
Thank you, Tania, and thank you all so much for being here today. It's really wonderful to look out and see all these people here. I'm Zoe Grodsky. I'm the School Food Systems Manager at Cumberland County Food Security Council, just 10 minutes down the road in South Portland. And I'm also here today as a member of the leadership team of the Halal School Meals Network in Portland. I'm so honored and delighted to get to introduce you to these amazing panelists that I get to work with every day. Today, as Tania said, we're going to be talking about supporting culturally relevant meals and diverse farming communities through Portland area farm to school. We're going to talk about how institutions can integrate culturally relevant foods into school meals and partner with local growers to provide meals that really reflect the backgrounds of their student bodies, tying into this overall summit theme of belonging. And if you're here, you likely already understand the power of school meals. And I'm excited today for all of us to hear more about how supporting school meals and the farmers who grow them can really foster a sense of belonging, honor diverse student and community populations, enhance student engagement, and increase food access and security. So I think we're in for a good panel today. I'm going to turn it over to Khadija to just go down the line, and really quickly, I'd love for you all to introduce yourself and what brings you into this work.
Good morning, everyone. My name is Khadija Ahmed, and I am the no longer board president, but the director of Food for All Services. I am also a chef, and my work is mostly focused on food equity. I do work for Good Shepherd Food Bank, and I am the community impact manager there. And again, still food insecurity. Zoe took a minute to not introduce herself. She simply says, my name is Zoe, but she didn't mention the immense role she plays at every opportunity. It's just such a joy to have a young person have so much maturity and take time to listen to issues that her and I only can understand that sometimes make no sense, but still she brings so much maturity to it. Thank you, Zoe, for being Zoe.
I definitely second that.
I'm Mary Emerson. I am the school nutrition director for the Westbrook School District. Westbrook is a town that's right next to Portland. We have over a quarter of our population of what we call new Americans. They come from all different places around the world. We're very proud of our diversity. I hope that if you're able to, that you're able at some point to see the inside of my schools, especially my middle school and my high school, but my middle school in particular, because they have a beautiful entryway and they have all the flags, 46 flags that represent the different countries that our students come from at the middle school. And we have the same at the high school, but it's spread throughout the building. So that's a little bit about my work. I also want to tell you that I have 25 employees as well. We have 5 production kitchens, and so I'm pretty busy just being a food service director, and then I'll tell you the other part later. Okay, thank you.
Good morning. My name is Muhidin Libah. I'm the director for Somali Bantu Community Association. I was born in Somalia and came to US in 2004, and the first place was Syracuse, New York. And I co-founded a nonprofit organization with a similar name to the one I'm here for. So the community who are in Maine invited me to help them to set up something. So that is my reason of coming to Maine. So I helped them co-found this nonprofit organization in 2005. And the community were farmers back home in Africa. And after we settled down in Maine, we decided to create a farming program for the community. So we started with 20 farmers. The idea was to produce fresh fruits and veggies for our own consumption. And we realized that we could grow more than we can consume in no time. So we started looking around to sell the produce. And my involvement with food production is that, I'm running this massive nonprofit organization with 200 farmers farming with us. Majority of them are just coming out to produce for themselves. And we have a group who are selling to farmers markets and wholesale accounts and farm-to institutions. So that's it.
Gotcha. Hello, I'm Chef Joe Robbins. I've been more in the private sector world, but I've been a chef for about 13 years. So just starting to kind of find what my role is in this world. And all the restaurants I've worked at, the big emphasis has been, local farms, fresh food, nutrition, all those kinds of things I've heard a lot of you talk about in the last day. So I'm very much in the beginning stages. I'm a little bit behind this group, I would say, but glad to be here and thanks for having me.
Thank you all. Yeah, those introductions, I think, cannot do justice to the incredible work that you're all doing. So hopefully we'll get to hear more about that. So Khadija, starting with you, as you said, we work together very closely on the Halal School Meals Network. And would you be able just to tell us a little bit more about what that network is and what the need is that you're addressing?
The Halal School Meal Network is addressing a need that's each one of us know and experience every day: hunger. Hungry children can't learn. Everybody knows that. Yet every single day we seem to ignore the need of certain children and allow only other children. Children of color are expected to perform twice, if not more, than their white counterpart. I know not long ago we were talking about the experience of being a person of color and how much it sucks for us to just be, to just exist. And we got a lot of, oh, I'm so sorry this has been happening to you. But we haven't even begun to talk about how much it sucks to be a child of an immigrant in a school that teachers don't look like your parents, kitchen staff don't look like your aunts, and nobody speaks your language. And all of a sudden you are offered this food that your body cannot recognize. No one speaks your language, yet you're expected to perform twice as much. You're expected to work twice as hard. I cannot speak from the experience of a child of an immigrant. I am a first generation. I came here in my 20s, but I have children who went to school and still in school. And I can't also speak much about what they eat because I'm a snob. I pack their lunch, but yet I know that it's a privilege. I am very privileged to be able to pack my children's lunch. The other kid whose parents are not packing their lunch because they don't have time, because they have 2-3 jobs, and sometimes in the morning they're just trying to get the day started. They don't have the opportunity of packing lunch. And we're forgetting that they don't also have the money to buy that extra food to pack lunch. So what is offered to our children at school? They can't, even in the case when they actually do pack lunch. Now, from my own experience, when I pack my lunch to my children, the food that I know is culturally relevant to them, the other kid will be like, ew, what is that? Children can be mean. And they are mean because we teach them how to be mean. So it's not just children. They weren't born mean. We taught them how to be mean. We taught them not to accept other people's culture. That's why they show up and they think other children food is ill. To remedy that is the Halal School Meal Network. We may not resolve everything. We may not remedy everything, but we are trying to bring a little more equity into the lunch. We are trying to recognize that people are coming from everywhere, that these children did not pick to be here. Their parents brought them here, not by choice, often because of the war. By the way, I'm from the Republic Democratic of Congo. I can never stop saying that. Everybody owe me something. If you have a cell phone, you owe my people something. If you have a laptop, that's the blood of my people. If you have an electrical car, I know you're thinking, oh, I'm green. You red. That's my people blood. And it sucks, and my people are walking from Africa to here, not because we all dreamed of coming to America, no. Some of us just wanted to be home, knowing that we have our people, but we end up here. But now that we're here, what can we do about it? For the few privileged like me who get to sit here in front of you and speak about this issue, it is very important to serve lunch that reflect the student body, to serve food that children can recognize. When we say culturally relevant, often people just think, oh my God, Muslim food, or Black people food, or African food, or Asian food, whatever. We are different. We should be serving different food. And if we have to make it in our kitchen, it should be the better thing to do. The Halal School Meal Network takes care of not only serving halal. By the way, we are the first in the nation to be third-party certified. In the whole nation, in the whole United States, I cannot say this enough. We are the first one. We get to say that this kitchen has been certified. We get to say that we work with director like Mary and go in her kitchen and make sure that every staff is educated on what it means to serve halal. How is the cross-contamination happen? How is the separation happening? How are we segregating certain food to others? How are we being truly inclusive? By that, I mean, we had to go back and make sure that when the school says we're serving vegetarian food, the food is truly vegetarian. When we say the food is vegan, it is truly vegan. By working with a third-party certifier, we were able to go back to every and each ingredient, making sure that it is really, when they say bread, and we're thinking it's just flour, it is truly flour and not human hair. Don't get me started in that. There is hair in your bread. What? Why? How do we remove that? How do we not feed kids hair? How do we feed the vegetarian children vegetarian food, the vegan children vegan food? How do we feed the halal children halal food? Halal children is not a word, but we're just gonna go with it. How do we feed them the food that we are saying we're feeding them? It is by making this sacrifice, by taking the time and making sure that everything is truly the way we say it's going to be. So to conclude what the Halal School Meal Network is, it is equity. It is recognizing differences. It is making sure that we are standing up for what we know is right, that we are truly feeding the future, the food that we know we had the opportunity of consuming. Not that what we are consuming now, but we know that to be whole, we had to consume whole food. How do we bring whole food back to the kitchen? Thank you.
Thank you, Khadija. And I'll just brag a little bit more on your behalf also, which is that this past week was a big week for the Halal School Meals Network and for Portland and Westbrook schools. Starting on April 1st, all 14 mainland schools in Portland, Westbrook Middle School, in addition to Westbrook High School, are going to be serving daily third-party certified halal options for their students in the cafeteria. So this is a big week. So Mary and Khadija, you two have been working very closely together for years on this project. Could you just share a little bit about what that relationship has been like and what the positive impact you've seen on both the student body and staff has looked like?
Okay, well, that's a big question. But our relationship started back during the pandemic. When the pandemic struck, I needed some funding in order to serve meals in the evening. We were sending food home. We had the bus drivers going out and delivering meals initially, and then we kind of changed our model to giving bulk food for the whole week. And so, and having the parents come to pick up the bulk meals. And this is when we came back to school and kids were in school 2 days a week only. So we had different methods for trying to reach our families. And I needed some money, basically, to encourage that program. So I applied for a No Kid Hungry grant for that. And with that, I wanted to do something that was going to have some lasting input. And one of the things I've always done is go out and then try to look at the kids at lunchtime and what they're eating. But really what I'm looking for is I'm looking for the kids that are not eating, and not just home lunches and what's coming in, but the kids that have no food whatsoever. And so what I found was that there were kids that were not eating because they were halal. And I wanted to go down that road and find out more about the halal options. And even as a dietitian, I knew very, very, very little. And so it took me a while to find Khadija. It was probably about a year and a half before I found her, of all the looking. And we started doing some culturally relevant meals and teaching my staff how to cook culturally relevant meals. And that's a big challenge because, we're serving 200-300 kids a day, so in our kitchens, so that's important. So that's how we kind of started, and we had a school nutrition chef named Samantha Cohen-Gaspro as well, and so that started our entry into the whole thing. And the more I delved into halal, I found the complexities of our food system, and I found out, what was available for information, what isn't available. And so we really, in that whole process, we've navigated a lot of challenges in that. And so we're able to open up our inventory. We're able to tell kids that we're transparent about what's in their food and what is and isn't. And so by doing the halal certification, the kids know that that meal has been approved with that. And it's good for all of my children. And one thing I want to mention is the Westbrook model is our vision statement is, our promise is one education for life for all. And so each child in our school system matters. And we want to make sure we're serving each and every child.
Mary, you've made such amazing changes in your cafeteria, but obviously change is also hard. Can you speak to what some of the challenges have been and how you're working to address these challenges?
Well, right now, the biggest challenge is actually getting halal meats right now. So that's something that I'm working with my fellow directors across the state and the Halal School Network. We're working together very hard to identify those sources. And as we know about food, being in the state of Maine, our food comes from 1,300 to 1,500 miles on average. And Maine is the last stop for food trucks. So I really feel that the National School Lunch Program has geographic preference for Hawaii and Alaska. And I really feel like New England, especially Northern New England, deserves geographic preference as well. And that's an actual, because of the cost involved. But that's another reason to go local and to try to source as much local as I can. And it's really good for all of my students if I'm able to do that. So, of course, sourcing has been a challenge. Education has been a challenge too. When we started putting halal on our menu boards, the kids had no idea what that meant, many children. So there's a lot of education that's needed across the board. So we've worked hard to make sure that we're doing a lot of education, not just for my staff, but for the teaching staff as well, and also for the children. So those have been some of the major challenges.
Yeah, and you've done an amazing job of actually bringing students in to help you with that education, including our two students, Lena and Maria, who weren't able to be with us today. Could you tell us a little bit about how you've worked with students on the Halal program?
That's really, well, time has always been a factor for me, being able to reach students. And so one of the things that has happened that has enabled me to be able to reach more students is I have the wonderful opportunity of working with Food Corps. And I cannot tell you how that has really changed the game. And there's one particular person especially Hannah Moore, right here in the front row, and she deserves to be up on stage, honestly. Yeah, and her work has been phenomenal because she is really on the ground. She's in each and every kitchen, and she's there every month she has different taste testing goals for the children, and these are things like tofu, and some kids have never tasted tofu before, ever. And they proudly test, and they get their little star that they can put on, they love it, they like it, or it's not for me. And every time you have a love it, because they're able to taste it, and they're enjoying it, and they were able to menu it, and they do eat it. So that has really been a huge win-win for us. So that's one way. And the other way is the starting of the student intern program that Zoe and Hannah have started. And that's a program that goes, how many weeks?
It's the entire spring semester from January to June.
Okay, so about 16 weeks. Okay, and they're meeting with the students for about an hour and a half every Wednesday after school. And it's just been amazing, the work that they've been doing, because you have 6 interns, and what they're doing is they're surveying the population. This last week, for example, we had some halal foods from a food manufacturer out of Michigan that they sent us to sample. They're sampling the foods, evaluating them, seeing if the kids would like them or not. So they're doing a lot of on-the-ground work that's tremendous. And they're also being very honest about the feedback that other kids are saying too, and that is priceless. So the more we're able to talk with the kids and find out what's happening, it really improves my program. And I can tell you that my participation has really climbed significantly, so I'm very grateful.
Yes.
Thank you.
We love to hear that. Thank you, Mary. And thank you for shouting out the internship program. I actually have a quote from our student, Lena, who wasn't able to be here today, about her experience that I'd just like to read so we can have her voice here with us in the room. Lena says, in the Food Fields Learning Internship, we've been working on improving the overall experience in the cafeteria. We've been working really hard to create a survey, and recently we launched it to get feedback from students about the food and their lunchroom experience. The goal is to understand what students really think about the meals, what they like, and what we could do better. We're trying to get as many people as possible to fill out the survey, because the more responses we get, the better we can make changes that actually matter to students. So far, we've seen students get excited to have their voices heard, because we've heard many complaints before on issues like the food, lunch lines, and even the cafeteria in general. So it's great to see them engage with the process, because their feedback is going to us. Because once we collect the results, we'll then use that feedback to make improvements that will make the cafeteria a place where students actually want to eat and hang out. So that's from Lena, and thank you, Mary, for investing in that student voice and student opinion in your cafeteria.
We enjoy having them. That's why we're there. And the other thing I forgot to mention is that by participating in the Halal Meals Network, we are also meeting on a monthly basis with our students to try to determine, how the halal program's going, and educate and improve as we go.
Yeah. So, Chef Joe, you're just entering into the school food space, as you mentioned. What has it been like for you to hear these stories about this work?
Yeah, well, I guess I would say, I'm still very new to this. 4 years ago, if you told me I'd be sitting on stage talking to educators and food service directors of schools, I would say that's probably unlikely, because I live behind a stove, and unless you come to my restaurant, most people don't know me. I was very fortunate that I was approached by the Wabanaki project so I ran a restaurant in Milo, Maine, and that restaurant got a lot of press, a lot of awards, a lot of good things happened. So coming out of that, we got a lot of people reaching out to us to kind of bring that to an education place, because I'm Penobscot, so I cook a lot of native food, and I also try to kind of reteach, because a lot of the food that's on our plates every day is very much native food. It comes from Maine. It's been here for 10,000 years. It has European influence, yes, but at the end of the day, it came from here. It's part of the Americas. So a lot of the work I do on menus is trying to kind of recapture that and bring that back to, I don't want to say it's rightful owners, because I feel like that's almost like taking colonialism back, which is, to me, fighting fire with fire, which doesn't really work. However, it brought me to this Wabanaki project where they were like, can you help us with our school curriculum that's coming into play? And through food, it's a lot easier. And this is why I think having Wabanaki food on menus within lunch, school lunch systems is a smart idea, because it's just a ground, you can't argue. A potato is delicious, a corn's delicious. There's no argument there. It's a very baseline thing. And it kind of brings a lot of all the other conversations and all the other lessons that come along with that. So it's a good foundation for all of it. But there's still a lot to learn. I'm still very, most days confused on how this all works, but there's a lot smarter people in the room to figure that part out. But I like being called upon to be the food part of that.
Mm-hmm. And a lot of people here might not know, but actually in Maine, there is a law requiring all schools to teach Maine K through 12 students about Wabanaki territories, economic systems, cultural systems, government and political systems, as well as the Wabanaki tribe's relationships with local, state, national, and international governments. Would you be able to tell us a little bit more about what your vision is for using food and culinary education to teach kids about Wabanaki culture?
Yeah, so I just touched on a little bit on it. I probably answered the question almost too soon. So the Wabanaki Project, if you're not familiar, is Portland school system was the first school system in Maine to actually take the torch and actually build the curriculum, because it's been since 2001 that it's been required by state schools. However, there's no curriculum to teach. So, that's a long time to go without teaching something, but if there's not a product to teach, how do you do it? So hat goes off to Portland for making that commitment to create and find the right people to actually create the curriculum. They were very good at getting, I think there's 21 actual curriculums within it. So they actually went out and got 21 different experts in their field, myself, another few people that were prevalent in Wabanaki studies through either boat building, political science, everything within our culture is pretty much covered as per what the law requires. So basically, that's a pilot program in Portland. As it's successful in Portland, I think this is the second year that's been in through K through 12. It'll hopefully be copied by other school systems throughout the state. So to be part of that pilot system and see where it could possibly go from here is kind of a really big deal.
Yeah.
Thank you.
And you've mentioned a little bit with corn and potatoes, what some of these indigenous foods look like. Can you talk a little bit more about what these Penobscot foods include, and also what the recipes we'll be seeing at lunch today are? Yeah,
so today, one of the meals you're having is one of the first dishes I put on a menu that's, is anybody familiar with what Three Sisters is? Mm-hmm. Oh, perfect. So, don't have to really explain it a whole lot, but Three Sisters is a growing technique. Most of the eastern seaboard, especially in this country, tribal people kind of really identify with Three Sisters, being squash, beans, and corn. Most of these types of harvesting practices are done in unison. So if you've ever heard of like a Three Sisters mound, these three plants basically help each other to grow. So with that, they're also all harvested around the same time. So to me, it only makes sense that they were probably consumed all around the same time, because before technology, before preservation of food, you would have had to consume this, food that you put a bunch of energy into. So it's kind of the meal that we put on menus to show something like pre-European and food technology, which in some ways, yes, like it's great that we can freeze food, ship it across the ocean, or can it and preserve it, but it's also the start of like all the health problems that we have within the country. So a lot of the ideas that we're all talking about, this eating local, this supportive of a local agriculture, like that's a native practice that's been practiced for 10,000 years, for so much longer than we act like it's a new thing these days. So that's another reason why I think bringing that into the educational system is smart, because it is the basis for everything we're all talking about. The other dish that we're eating today is a bread-wrapped cod. It's a a dish that basically I was approached by Edible Maine. 2 years ago, I was nominated for a James Beard Award. So, yeah. So, knowing that was coming, Edible Maine approached me about doing a native recipe and article and all that. So I kind of wanted to do something that essentially, like in the restaurant industry, your big goal is to get rid of waste. So we were bringing in a lot of cod and, butchering ourselves and doing the whole thing, trying to be smart about every piece of this fish. However, the loin pieces, I always felt like are the best to consume, the best to eat and flavor-wise. However, generally when you skin a fish, that's the part that's gonna kind of break down and fall apart. It usually goes, most restaurants will throw it to like a chowder. And I thought that was kind of a waste. So we started wrapping it in bread to make up for the skin that's no longer there. And I also thought that makes it a little more appealing for younger people that wouldn't necessarily want fish skin or scales. So now it's toasted and looks kind of like a grilled cheese on top. So it's kind of something that's familiar, but also not so familiar. We're gonna also be having that as well with some blueberry wajapi, which is essentially blueberry jam, but it also has some heat to it too. So that's kind of America's first condiment, predates ketchup and mustard and all these things that everybody thinks is so European. So hope you guys enjoy it.
Well, that sounds delicious. I'm very excited for lunch. And while we're talking about fresh local ingredients, I'm really excited that we have Muhidin here to represent that farming perspective. So Muhidin, since 2018, Liberation Farms at Somali Bantu Community Association has had a contract with Portland Public Schools to purchase tomatoes for their marinara sauce. Would you be able to tell us a little bit about what the impact has been on your farmers and your community to work with Portland Public Schools and other districts through this forward contracting work?
We started farming in 2014, and when we got the piece of land, it was in the middle of May, and we did not know what to grow. And I took this message to the community and said, okay, we have this piece of land. It can only fit 20 farmers. What do we want to grow? And everybody was starting thinking about, okay, we want to grow corn and we want to grow tomatoes. And these are the two crops that our farmers had a lot of experience with back home in Africa. So we started with 20 farmers, and by 2016, 2017, we started thinking about where do we sell this produce? So our community were really, really good growers, but they are really, really bad in business and sales and economics. That's zero. The way we practice back home in Africa is that you grow the food, and then when the food is ready, that's when you look for a market. And what happens to food that is perishable, for example, tomato. So when you look for a ripe tomato, a market, in 2 days, the tomatoes will go bad, and then you will not get anything. So we started thinking about how do we go and sell this in American business, American market. So we hired a wonderful Christina, she's sitting there. So she was our markets manager, and she started, oh my God, I can't take this credit. I don't know what she did. She started walking behind the curtain, and she started making these deals. And we have the tomatoes. And then by 2018, she came up with this contract. We know our customer before the first seed is put in the tray. I'm like, I don't know about this. I've never experienced that. So I told the farmers that we know we need tomatoes and we need leeks and all this for our Portland Public School Central Kitchen for a sauce called marinara sauce. And our farmers were like, what if the seed doesn't germinate? What if this happens? We started thinking about scenarios because we never experienced that way of sales. We never thought that ahead of time. So it was a crash course. It was really, really hard, like bringing these farmers who only know how to grow to this school who needs best quality produce. It was really hard. Christina and I and a couple other farmers putting our heads together, aggregating tomatoes from plots, and like to fulfill an order, it took a whole day. Like we have to source the tomatoes from different plots, write it down, what each farmer has, and it was a really crash program. And then that year ended, and people started seeing a little bit of money coming into their tomatoes, and people like, okay, this makes sense. And then we started thinking about how do we make this a viable business. So we started getting groups of farmers. We had this as a culture back home in Africa. It's called Eskashito. Eskashito means a collaborative, like people self-select, 4 or 5 people self-select themselves who trust each other. They don't know what the deals they have behind. But we see 5 people coming to us, trying to grow together, trying to share the sales and everything. So we started with like 9 groups. Each group will be given the seedlings and they will start growing for these markets. And then we started thinking about, okay, how do we sell the rest of the crops? We have all kinds of beautiful kale, Swiss chard, beets, and all this. How do we sell this? And we started looking for other avenues. And then we were working with Cumberland County Food Security Council. Jim Hanna was our partner with us. And we started looking for other markets, other wholesale accounts. So we found Maine's Feeding Maine's program, and that's how we took off this huge, massive sales that we have today. We are selling to a lot of institutions. We are selling to a lot of wholesale accounts. Maine's program is giving us other accounts to sell the produce to. And also, 2025, we are talking to Lewiston Urban and the Lisbon School departments to buy our produce. And yeah. So this is the second institution we are selling. It was really hard for us to sell. Lewiston is where we live, Urban is where we live, and where our kids go to school. We were really trying to get our food to our kids, but Lewiston and Urban school departments were asking us to produce a GAP certification. They really want to come out and see where our production is and how do we like handle food safety and stuff. So it took us a while to convince them. Right now, they are really convinced. They are ready to buy from us 2025. So Portland Public Schools was the school that gave us a trust, the school that put all their trusts on us. And we try to work with them, and we always ask them, how did we do? Is there anything that we need to check? Is there any issues that we are trying to take care of? And so we were working back and forth. And the challenge we had with them was there were always changes of management. People who were working with us always changed. This person leaves, another new person comes, another new deal, another new so that was a challenge we had.
Thank you, Muhidin. And I've had that marinara sauce. It is, I believe Ron Adams developed that recipe. It is delicious. So yes, can attest. It's really special to know that tomatoes are coming from Liberation Farms. So we just have a couple more minutes left, and I'd like to turn it over to the audience if anyone has questions. We have time for a couple of questions for our wonderful panelists.
Hi. Maine was one of the first 2 states to start universal free school meals for all. And I just wonder if you have, if you could tell us how that has affected these efforts to bring culturally relevant, fresh, healthy, wonderful food to your kids.
It has. I'm very proud of it. Our participation across the state has increased. I'm probably feeding about 75% of my students and daily basis, all of my schools. So I'm really proud of the program. It's also helped us to be able to do this because there's a lot of paperwork that goes with the program. I'm a community eligibility program, so I don't have to do free and reduced lunch forms. I don't have to, call people for money, how much, and chase lunch bills. I mean, it was just unbelievable. When this pandemic struck, I had $20,000, outstanding. And that's been wiped away. So it's really changed my life for the better and big time, but it's really changed the life of all of our students, and that's what's really important, is that it's an equity thing. There's no longer, free or reduced lunch. There's no longer needing any money. It's just made my lines faster, and it's a win-win situation. And as far as the culturally relevant, it's allowed us that time that we need to, that focus to get this going and everything. So my staff is very excited to be able to feed all of our students, and that's what we're doing.
You want to say anything? Oh.
Yeah, I think we can't emphasize the importance of that investment enough. Just working alongside the schools, I see the way that it's reduced stigma for students to just go up and try something new that they maybe haven't eaten before, and it's just completely changed the culture of the cafeteria.
It really has. It really has.
I'm wondering about the halal challenges, specifically around meat, and what are the opportunities, or what do you feel like you need from a food system perspective to get more halal products into the school system?
Basically, I need more providers, people who sell to us, and also, for example, burgers are a big thing in our business. And both my middle school and my high school, we have 3 different serving lines. We have like a custom sandwich, cold sandwich line, kind of like a Subway, and then we have a grill line, and then we have the school lunch meal, the meal of the day. So burgers are a big factor, and I would love to see, a child nutrition labeled burger, halal burger that we could use, that I could serve. That's one thing. Mm-hmm.
We need a little more advocacy. It doesn't take much to go from something that is not halal to something that is halal. It doesn't really take much. We just need more advocacy. We need more investment in the states. School do get to use their local dollar if they were able to access the meat locally. We have no halal slaughterhouse in Maine, none whatsoever. We can have not even in New England that is close to us, the prices that the school can afford. Because if you had to look at the idea of halal, it is simply best for everybody. If we could make all meat halal, then we will have less issue. The way the animal is raised, the way the animal is slaughtered, the way the food is prepared, it's asking us to go back and really think about who's touching the food, how are they preparing the food, how the animal is raised, how was the animal treated, how was the animal slaughtered. It's better for everyone. If we could offer that to the school, if every kid could have access to it, then we don't have to think about, is this halal or this is not halal? It'll just be, in general, a better option for everyone. So it is more about advocacy, removing that stigma of this is Muslim food, this is Sharia food, because let me tell you something, Islamophobia is a thing. How do we bring that back to the table, and we bring it in a way that it's very inclusive, that everyone has access to it?
The last thing I'll say also is just financial investment in this work to make it possible. And not just, we're working with 3 school districts, South Portland, Westbrook, Portland. They're amazing. We're so lucky to have directors like Mary, Sean, and Jen who are taking the leap and investing in this work. And it's going to take so much more advocacy and financial resources to make it happen across the board.
Could I say one more thing?
Yeah.
One more thing. The federal local fund was cut, and that was something that's a big loss for us in Maine. But we do have another local fund. We have a state local fund that provides up to $5,500, and it's a match. It's for every $3 I spend, I get $1 back. And so I just wanted to kind of plug that. And I'm not sure what other New England states have for local funds, but it really is essential, and I certainly hope that continues. And I would love to see the local fund nationally return as well.
Yeah, thank you, Mary. Well, we're gonna wrap up here. And I just want to say, if you want to hear more of this conversation, on Wednesday morning, we'll be having a community-led farm to institution workshop that Mary and Muhidin and myself and many others will also be on. So that's an opportunity. I know we didn't get to everything today, so an opportunity to keep this conversation going. But I just wanted to say, cannot say thank you enough to the four of you and so many others in this room who are really making this work possible. I mean, I just look out on this crowd and see so many familiar faces who are putting so much effort and love into this work every day. So thank you to you all. Thank you to FINE for having us here and looking forward to the rest of the summit with you all.